Welcome to Declutter for Change, the podcast where we clear the visible and invisible clutter from your mind, body, soul, and home to make room for the life you actually want to live and love. I'm your host, Heather Clark. We are joined today by Leslie Marie Wright to explore how to declutter the overwhelming mental weight of grief and find the courage to reclaim your own story after a devastating loss. Leslie is an award-winning entrepreneur, speaker, and international best-selling author, and the powerhouse behind Parties by Leslie. With nearly 2 decades of experience in the communications and event planning, she has built a global platform dedicated to empowering women and families to lead with purpose. Leslie has written multiple titles alongside her 2 sons, both selling authors in their own right. Together, the family has authored 16 books and in 2025 expanded their creative brand with coloring books and a coloring treat box business. Hello, Leslie. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I'm not liking the blowing wind and everything that we're having today in the snow, but other than that, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, we had 2 snowstorms here in North Carolina back to back. So we are excited that we were not included to this snow party for the 3rd invitation.
Like, you can keep that around everybody but us. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. We've been praying it. Moms are like, no, they got to go to school this time. I'm sorry.
That's funny. So I have a question. How did you become an entrepreneur? How did you get in the online space, into what you do? And let us know what started this.
Yeah, so I am a wedding and event coordinator. I just celebrated 18 years, January 25th.
Awesome.
And so the event planning begot speaking, and then speaking birthed the books because I had nothing to sell from the stage, and people would ask me, so what do you have for us? Me? I don't have anything. and I did that for a long time. Like, I got a booking link. I don't know what am I supposed to have?
Yep.
So then I got into writing books and anthologies and being a part of that. And then the books birthed coaching. So that's kind of been the landing place that I'm at currently. And so originally my background was in sales. If it was selling, I was there.
Which is ironic considering the fact that you didn't sell from the stage, though.
Yeah, right? Jesus and his sense of humor. And so but I started in retail sales, which is very different. You're not talking about yourself. You're talking about a product and why they should have it. A little bit of disconnect from self there, just a little. And so, but I did everything from retail sales to collections. So yes, I was the girl you hung up on. Repeatedly for all of your medical bills. You probably hung up on me and didn't even know it. But no, so that's where I started. And then, I would say probably my early 20s, I was just like, well, God, it's not that I'm not grateful and I'm not happy with my life, but if there's something else I'm supposed to be doing, can you tell me?
Can you give me a little hint, a little something?
Yeah, it kind of wrestled with me for quite some time, actually. And we threw, myself and my former business partner, we threw one of our best friends a birthday party. And I'll never forget, Philip McDougall, a joint friend, walked up to me and said, Leslie, if you can do all of this for a friend, have you ever thought about doing this like as a career? And I'll never forget him standing in my mother's living room when he asked me that. And we just looked at him like he had 2 heads. Like, no one is getting paid to party. Are you crazy? That's when event planning was still very like a new phenomenon that somebody would ever get paid.
It wasn't so social media approved, right?
Yeah, like people would see event planners for famous people on TV, but none of us knew anybody locally. Like friends and family threw the party. You didn't pay your aunt. That's the one I grew up in. And so we were like, no, this is like just what we do for fun. And so I revisited that conversation with God several years fast forward. Like, am I supposed to be a party planner?
And it's so funny because, you're probably like, there's got to be something else that hit me or like made me stop, because you just said it was like a few years after he had said that to you, like the gentleman that was at the party. So I'm sure you were getting hints in between all that.
Yeah, my running joke is that I'm sure Jesus and Simon Peter just sit up there shaking their heads like, poor Leslie, just we kind of sent her Philip years ago, but it's fine. She'll get it. I did eventually.
So what got you to actually going and saying yes to not only the party planner, but yes to yourself?
Yeah, I was completely inspired. I cut on the TV and I had been following David Tutera for quite some time. He at the time was at the top of his game doing celebrity events, but he had this new partnership with Disney. And so Disney was bringing him on board to do weddings on the ship. And I was like, excuse me? I mean, and Disney is still a big thing now, don't get me wrong, but businesses were not inviting wedding and event planners to come and do like destination magical type events. And it was just so captivating to me. And I remember watching an episode and at the end of the show, they showed his book and his tour and his conference. And so I'm sitting in my living room with a scrapbook, like, what have I missed? And so I literally just took his lead. I remember researching for hours sometimes what was this career really supposed to be all about? What was my piece of the pie that I was supposed to be getting other than sitting with pieces of fabric and a notebook?
Yep.
Yeah.
So with that, how long did it take from that moment of realization to actually getting it off the ground and going and getting a name for yourself?
Yeah, I really vividly remember calling up a good friend and said, listen, I'm the creative, you're the know-how, right? Like you're the other arm in the body. I feel like we're being called to greater. God's calling us into something different. Here is the whole plan. And one thing that I love about God is he will give you the whole sketch if you let him. He doesn't give you pieces, right? Like he will give you the whole plan. And he just rolled it out. And I would say maybe in 6 months, we had a business name, a license, and we were doing photo shoots, and we were like, hello, we're here, ladies, and it just took off from there. We started charging people $100 per event, and it didn't matter what type of event it was. So I'll let you wrestle with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, I know one of our topic today is talking about the mental grief and the balancing the motherhood while you're running the business. So
yeah.
While obviously a lot of my listeners are mothers themselves, I am myself as well. So running a business while being a mother is hard enough. But if you can take me back to the story that, the mental grief that you experience that added that extra onto it that you still had to overcome while running the business.
Yeah, I think it happened actually in 2 times of my life. The first one was being bogged down mentally with understanding that single motherhood was not going to be the death of me. I remember when my older son, who's now 15, his father and I were kind of off and on for 10 years. And I remember saying, you know what, there comes a point where it needs to look like be something else. But I remember prior to that decision, I fought tooth and nail to not be a single mom. It was like the plague to me. Okay. I was like, I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't make me a single mom. Okay. And I remember the mental shame, the mental guilt, and really becoming depressed. I can laugh about it now because I do single motherhood with,
I was going to say same here. So
with a trophy now. Okay. I got a couple of them. But then it wasn't funny, and I didn't think I could do it, and I didn't think I could survive it, but I did. The second one was most recently January 6th of just last year, losing my matriarch, my go-to, my mom, out of nowhere. My mother was here for breakfast, gone by midnight, one of those kind of deaths. And I sat with trying to figure out which mom did I miss more. Did I miss the woman that brought me up kind of through my primitive years where, elementary school, middle school, college, or did I miss the one that I literally had to say goodbye to, in the hospital bed and all of that, and grappling with that while still eventually having to get back to a football schedule, a soccer schedule, a church schedule, a Bible study schedule, a business schedule. And I think between the two, probably January 6th of last year with losing my mom is probably the one that was the most weighty, because, they say that you'll cry and your body will go through things, but no one talks about mental grief. Like when your brain is crying is the best way to explain that. It was to rerun every conversation that wasn't had. It wants to rerun all the things that you should have said, should have done. And I feel like your brain sobs way longer and grieves longer than the physical body does. And I had never experienced that until my mom passed.
And so was there something that you noticed that was repetitive in a thought that just kept coming up again and again, no matter what you were doing, whether you're with the kids, whether you're with the business? If so, what was that? And how did you, not necessarily that you had to get over it, because grief is not something you get over. It's just something that becomes part of your life.
Yeah.
But how did you incorporate that with your life?
Yeah, I think once I finally kind of pinpointed what that was, it was the guilt of saying, I think I'm grieving the younger years more than the recent ones. And who is the safe person that I'm going to say that to, without tainting their memories, without reconstructing what they thought our relationship was, without painting my mom as some evil person. But my mom suffered from alcoholism. And bottom line, I'm in the process now of writing a book, but I was raised by Wenda. but Shirley, honey, is the one we got in the latter years, okay? And I feel as though she held on to Wenda for as long as she could. But I'll never forget saying to myself, Wenda has left the building. And now, I thought that I had grieved Wenda then. Yeah, I thought I had grieved Wenda then. I was like, listen, Shirley, we're on this roller coaster until the wheels fall off. And I thought I had accepted it until she died. And I grieved very badly, and still today sometimes the healthier days is who I call Wenda, versus Shirley, who was flat out alcoholic. And just didn't know half the time what she was saying and what she was doing, and if she cared, because that's what alcoholism does.
So in essence, actually, you ended up grieving two people, and that made it even harder on you as well. So when you came to realization that there are two different ones that you were grieving, two different moms, two different versions, what got you out of the spiral? Because we all know at one point or another there was a spiral that kept going down, down, down. And then what was the moment of you saying, no, I've got my children, I've got my business, I've got my friends, I've got to stop thinking these thoughts and getting these mental gremlins and having this part of me being destroyed because of two different, technically, people that were in your life?
Yeah. I think I found safety in God first. Talking to him and saying, just give me peace and give me the right. I feel like I lost my rights for a minute there. And even saying that out loud to myself. Like, how dare you, the daughter of Wenda, try to make her some split personality person, right? There's still some shame in America that even comes with people who've been diagnosed with anxiety and schizophrenia and all the things. And so I had to let go of what I thought other people would think about me and my story about my mom. And I had to just pray for a really long time. God, give me my rights back. Help me to feel whatever it is I need to feel about my mom. And, now that I'm going over it with you, I think it probably had to be a conversation with my dear cousin, Amber. We have a very unique relationship because my mother and her dad are the only two siblings of my grandmother that have the same dad, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so I can see it visually.
You following the tree. And then my mom had two other brothers, and they had a different dad, and they have a very special bond. But it wasn't until she called to check up on me. I think, I talked to God, I talked to my son about it, but I think it was in talking to her, because she asked me how I was like really doing. Like, take my mask off. This is your cousin calling. You understand?
The key to having people around you is how are you really doing? Not
Yeah.
just how are you doing, as you would with a neighbor. It's no, how are you really doing? Like you said, take that mask off. And if you need to, let it all out,
Yeah.
whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
How are you really doing? And how were you really doing? What did you tell her?
Yeah. I told her I was angry.
Mm.
And she said, why? And I went on to tell her all my grievances. And she's always been such a beautiful sounding board. I am the oldest of my cousins. And so I've always thought so much of her maturity for her to be younger than me and calling to check up on me. But she's always been mature, you know. And so I just told her all my grievances right then and there. And I said, you know, for the first time in my life, I can't care how other people feel about my story about my mom.
Yeah.
And she said, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said, you're right. We weren't there for everything. But I think it was a turning point for me to hear it from family.
Yes.
That's
it, because a lot of our masks are put on in front of our family, because again, they're the first ones that judge us when we were kids. They're the first ones to, you know, say something because they still remember the younger version of us, or the you know, the quieter version or whatever. And then as you become an adult, as you become your own woman, as you become your own person, businesswoman, etc., they don't see you like that. They still see you as the little girl or whatever that's, you know, helpless or whatever. So
and I didn't want to clutter up someone else's mind about all the things that they should have thought about my mom that they didn't know. You know, the first couple of months I was so careful not to put all of my mom's business out there, because she would have woken up from her urn and been like, excuse me, are you talking about me? And I just didn't need that in my life. You know, she wasn't a very private person, but her addiction was extremely private. And I for years just didn't want to get into the ebbs and flows and all the things that we went through, because I wanted to still somehow preserve what they thought about her, what they saw, and allow them to have that untainted from my not so pretty stories. But it was in that conversation that I said, nope, I'm gonna just let it rip.
Which is a key factor for anyone listening, because a lot of the time, especially as women, especially as mom, we are there, like we usually take on and take on and take on, and all the emotional like heaviness and all the mental, you know, weight and everything like that. We keep taking on until we crack ourselves, and then we wonder why we're so exhausted, why we're so burnt out, why we're so angry and mad, and our fuse is so short.
Yes.
But that's the key, and that's the whole point of, like, you know, my podcast and my business is letting go of the things in the mind, the body, the soul, and the home, and just realizing that not everything's yours to carry, that it's okay to have these conversations, that your mom's secret wasn't yours to carry anymore. That it's something that's, you know what, I was not the one that was the, you know, the alcoholic. That is not my story. That is not my personality. But why am I keep still, even after her passing, you were still keeping that heavy weight.
Yeah.
So after you told your cousin, and after you probably had a good cry, had good, you know, whatever with her, how did you feel moving forward? Was it literally like a weight had been lifted?
Yeah, because that was the first time I ever addressed the anger. I had felt sadness. I had felt the depths of grief. I had felt denial. I had felt shame. I had felt complete anxiety and unrooting. I actually did not ever think that I would feel the abandonment, orphan kind of feel that my girlfriend said that one creeps in kind of last. But I went through that. But I was not expecting the depth of anger that I still carried for various reasons and parts and ebbs and flows of my story, until she called that day. And I just let it out. You know, I'm angry that she's gone. I'm angry how it went down. I'm angry with people who paid for the chicken and people that didn't. I'm just angry.
And it takes over your body. Like when we hold in so much, it's almost like, you know, they say Pandora's box, or like all of a sudden a leak that just explodes into a pressure valve, and every form of emotion or thought or whatever comes out, and then all of a sudden you're just kind of like, oh,
since you asked.
Yeah, you're like, so about that did you really want to know?
Well, and see, I didn't even really, what is scary, there's some that feel the pressure of holding it in. But I was going into zombie mode. Like there would be times my son would catch me in the kitchen and I'm mid stirring a pot with nothing in it. I was getting a little
went
bit
into disassociation, which is another form of,
Yeah, and my son would have to be like, Mom, you all right? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. But it was, I didn't realize it's because I was just trying to keep it cool.
You were trying to do what you did every day and try to make it look, keeping that mask on, but that mask was slowly falling off.
Yeah, I was going to stir that pot. What you mean? I meant to stir this with nothing in it. Absolutely.
That's what you have for dinner. Nothing. You guys always say nothing.
Right. On purpose. Yes.
So, with the fact of your mom's passing and how it happened and everything like that, how did that affect your business moving forward? As you said, you've got a book that you're going to be writing as well. So talk about how you even started writing, because even part of your bio, you even write books with your children. So talk about that and how this all kind of came together for you.
Yeah. So 2 things happened. The first one was we had already been a family of authors. Together, we've collectively written and designed 15 books. I'm an international best-selling author, and so is my 15-year-old. But when my mom passed, I immediately felt myself saying, I got to make sure that people don't just remember me, but they remember my kids. It was a huge weight. Like, okay, so I've lost my grandmother, I've lost my great-grandmother, I've now lost my mom. We're losing some matriarchs here, and I don't know that we've done the diligence in capturing their stories, and it's not like we can ask now. And so, I sat with the fact that I've had a great career, but I felt like when my mom passed that I was just sprinkling my kids in there whenever I could.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my legacy to be that. I wanted them to finally step forward. So I started helping them write books well before my mom passed. She actually saw her 4-year-old write his first book before she passed, which was huge. She didn't get a chance to see the evolution of the coloring books, but we got busy. After we kind of went through all the different depths of grief, and you're right, you begin to live with it. You don't live without it ever. But we started taking the grief and got to a point where we could do something with it, where it became a tool. Like, okay, we're going to cry, but we're going to cry and help somebody else. It was a turning point. And then that's when we started doing the coloring books and the treat boxes. And I started getting more serious about booking podcast interviews and interviews for my children. And so now when we go out to speak and we go out to vend, you hear from my 15 and my 4-year-old, I'm standing in the background. And so, it's kind of full circle, because I started my career in the background. I was comfortable there and I was fine there, and God elevated me from there and then blessed me to have 2 children, and he's looped me back to the background of them. And I'm completely okay with it. And it's been a beautiful evolution, but we are taking the grief and doing something with it now, baby. And we are on fire.
That is amazing. So I know that I had actually one of your partners for the coloring book and the tour that you're doing on the podcast. I believe she's on 43, Tammy Pope.
Yes.
So listeners, go back to that episode.
Yeah.
But with this whole thing, how did the coloring, because again, we're going to go back to it, because in her episode, it was how did coloring get you through business, How did coloring get you through the grief part of it? How did writing your books, including your kids, how did your kids react to this as well?
Yeah, I take no claim. My coach had started a challenge, and it was a sales challenge, and she dared us to create something completely new that didn't look like us, nothing like we had ever done before, craft something that people aren't expecting, and I sat at my desk for days like, what in the world is that gonna look like? We have traveled, we've done books, we've done events, we've done this, we've done that. What am I creating that people haven't seen before? Have you ever sat with that?
Yeah.
The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. I think I've been tricked. I don't think that I don't think there's a real answer to that question. I'm going to fail this challenge. And I'll never forget, I cut on Facebook and I saw a woman coloring. But you couldn't see her. You just saw her coloring. And she was going through all the what ifs. What if it works? What if you get healed from it? What if somebody buys it? What if you love it? And it was such a serene feeling that like draped over me that once I stopped watching it, I kind of snapped back into like, I didn't see that for no reason.
Yep. And we all know that that's true. Yep.
I didn't see that for no reason. And what in the world are people making money coloring?
Lots of money, apparently. Yes.
I had the biggest conversation with God. Like, excuse me, I have been a mom for 15 years and you don't want to talk to me about crayons? Yeah. And so that's when he gave me like 3 dynamic classes that I teach with Tammy. And when I tell you, he wrote every word, he wrote every part of the course. It was a 3-part course when we started that we taught on Zoom. And it was called Color for Cash. I didn't think anybody would understand it or get it. I really just thought it was going to be our therapy. Mm-hmm. And we started coloring books. And then he gave us a box. And so then we started coloring book boxes. Look at my babies, Heather. Y'all can't see it because you're listening, but Heather can see it.
I was going to say, you can't see, but it's awesome. She has her little cartoon children on the box. That is fantastic.
And so we are now traveling. Okay. Never thought we'd do that, but traveling, helping women work through grief and work through mom guilt and work through all the debt and all the things through a coloring book. It's been a bit wild.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to say, just talking to Tammy as well and talking to you and just how wild it can be, because it just seems like you're like, wait a sec, but this seems so simple.
There's no way people are going to pay us to color. No way.
Right? Like it was just such a like simple idea, but then you're like, no, but if it helped me, if, you know, just that one video stopped you in your track, put you in almost a trance.
Changed everything.
It's one of those things that's like, oh, well, if this helped me, and this is how most of our businesses in the online space happens, because, well, if this helped me, if I could just help one more other person, and then all of a sudden that one person becomes like a whole bunch of people, and now you're traveling, and now you're going, you know, on vacations and doing a tour and everything like that, and all while still holding the grief, because as we said earlier, you don't completely heal from it. It's just become part of your life.
Yeah. And
so like having that as a motivation while also teaching your children, what a huge, huge, huge thing you're doing for them.
Yeah. And the first box and coloring book that we launched is in honor of my mom. And so one of the boxes, you'll open it up and there's a story card in each box because there's different colors and themes. That'll be for another show. And you open up the launch box and it's a story about my mom and why these boxes had to start. And so we never thought that these boxes would be a way to keep her alive. It's just the way that God blossomed it is nothing.
Well, the way that you can still, instead of just grieving and just getting like, you know, into that anger and keeping that anger alive, you went, no, I'm going to switch this around. I'm going to make something good out of this. This is going to be a different story that I get to tell my grandchildren if I have them, and etc. Like,
it became a whole fight to keep my mom alive. And I remember saying it when we were designing it. And I was like, she will not die in vain. We will remember her. And this is how.
And that is huge. That is like honor to you for having, despite having to grieve 2 different moms, technically, still finding the way to honor the one that you want to moving forward and saying like, no, this is the one that I miss the most. This is the one that I remember and others remember. And this is who she needs to be remembered by.
Yeah.
So kudos to you. That takes a huge, huge heart. And that is amazing. So
and courage.
Oh, courage to say the least. Yeah. Because again, you could have sat in that anger. You could have, I know, and a lot of the listeners now like are probably thinking back to things that they've sat in that anger and they've absorbed that anger so much that it became part of their personality. And anytime they thought of the person or thought of the idea or the thing or the failing business too, that their whole body reacts. Whereas
creating the boxes, getting back to that rights thing, it put my rights back in place where they belong. that I have a right to memorialize my mom the way that I want to. I have a right to capture her story and her beauty. I have a right to say you will remember her. All my rights just started flooding back. It was right up there with the Voting Rights Act. I tell you, it was just, oh, you've given me privileges and rights. And, and there was a different level of respect for the grief, I think, that comes along when you do something with the grief. It's almost like it also brings a reverence, and it brings rights, but it also allows other people to know you may forget her, but I won't.
Yeah. Yep. And that is such a huge honor. I hope your mom, wherever she is and whatever she is doing right now, is just blessed that you are carrying on that side of things, and that you're also showing your children too. You're showing them that, yes, you can have these emotions. Yes, you can have all of the anger, all of the sadness, all of the frustration, all that stuff, and you could still turn it into something good.
Yeah, and do something with it. Absolutely.
So, what a beautiful thing that you are teaching your children and teaching our listeners as well, because anyone listening at this point is going, yeah, I know I hang on to that feeling a little too long, probably. Because again, when you hang on to those heavy feelings, they bring you down. They bring the people around you down. So being able to actually process it in a way like you have with the boxes, with the coloring, with involving your children in everything you do with that, it makes it a little lighter, so that it, yes, it's grief in your life, but you can handle it a little better, handle it with, care. As opposed
and it gave my 4-year-old language to death and morality. And I mean, he was really struggling with it. He was like, well, surely if grandma's going to heaven, I can go too. And for a very long time, he walked around the house like, I just want to go with my grandma. And me and his older brother would be like, no, we know what you mean. But no. And that is confusing for a 4-year-old when you tell them heaven is good, grandma's there. It doesn't make sense as to why you're telling them, but they can't.
Why can't I go there if I'm good and I want to see grandma? Why can't? Yeah, and that's it.
And he's very analytical, like his mom. And he was like, "No, I'm going." He was just I'm going, and I'm going today. Well, first,
we're good.
Not today for several reasons, but it's been beautiful for him to be able to open the box, and he is proud, and it just makes me tear up. We go to events and he's like, this is my grandma, and it so allows her to be here with him too. It's been beautiful to watch.
That is amazing. So that seems like a really good spot to actually ask you. My 4-pillar finish, as I say on all the podcasts, is when there's somebody who is going through the grief of whether it's losing someone, losing a job, losing whatever it is, they're going through the grief, because grief is a spectrum of feelings.
Yeah.
How giving them tips for their mind, their body, their soul, and their home. Just one little tip that they can do today that can change the trajectory from that anger part of it, from the sadness, to honoring whatever it is.
Yeah, I think the 4 sectors is beautiful. So the first one I would say for the mind is to go through affirmations. I underestimated affirmations for a really long time. Shame on me. But affirmations
on this podcast.
Gosh, but the power of them when you start believing them. When you put belief with an affirmation, it changes things, and it gives your mind something else to think about. I learned in grieving that the mind just wants to have something to process constantly. And so that's why they say in the Bible that an idle mind is the devil's playground. It's because if you let it go, then he just kind of moves in and has his way, because you're not doing anything with your mind. It's just free space for him. And so affirmations, my mother did love me. My mother did care for me. This was not personal. I had to start saying those things to my mind to hush up the other voices that weren't so kind about her death. When it comes to body, you eventually, this is going to be funny, but not funny. It is only in the movies that you can sit on your couch with Cheerios for so long before you begin to smell yourself. That's not funny. That's movie. Okay.
Oh my, yes.
And so the thing that you're just going to lay around until that person comes back. Well, no, there's things that start to happen with your body that will not allow that. Okay. So hot showers, spa days, facials, taking care of your self-care and your body. But there were many times where I would just stand in the shower and just hold myself and cry. Just give myself a big hug from me to Leslie. Yep. And just allow myself to break with the safest person.
Oh, that's wow. And then for
the last time you gave yourself a good body hug. Now for soul, that I cannot credit anyone other than my son. I call him Moses in my house. For him to be 15, he talks like he's 60. And there were times where there was only him that could reach me. I was just checked out. I was feeling whatever I was feeling for the day. And he would come home and be like, you know what? But that's our mom, my grandma. And it's okay. And he would just come over and hold me and just rock me and say, it's okay. Whatever it is today, it's okay. And my soul just needed permission for it to be okay. So he was definitely a part of my soul healing. You got to get people around you that know how to speak past the mask and speak to the soul of you. That really is angry, upset, hurt, pissed off, like whatever it is, that they can wrestle with you with that and go to war with your soul about the truth. Not what you're feeling, not your emotions for the day, but the naked truth of you. And for me as a mom, our kids see us, good, bad, ugly, and different. And so they know when we're faking it. When it comes to your home, there did come a time where I had to put my mom's pictures away for a little while. And that's a journey all by itself. Yep. But my home, I did not realize had became a, what do you call it? A memorial.
Gotcha. There was where you wanted to keep everything that reminded you.
I was keeping the ribbon from the flowers. It was getting ridiculous. Okay, the flowers are dead, Leslie. Just please, but anything from the funeral, the pictures, the programs. Why do you need 6 programs of your mom in every room? That is a bit excessive. Okay, if I could dare to say it.
That is, listeners, a little bit excessive.
And I needed to make sure that she was everywhere.
Yeah.
For a very long time. And I didn't realize that it was slowing down my healing to wake up and see the program and the CD and the flowers and the ribbon and the stain.
Even though you weren't actually consciously looking at it, you knew it was there. You knew every step you took in your home, she was there.
Are you kidding me? I was the woman who was like, don't come in the house and touch anything with my mom on it. You can sit someplace else, but her photo goes in this chair.
Yep.
It just became a bit much one day. And I woke up and I said, I can't heal this way.
Yep.
I can't heal this way. And so I took a day, and every day I removed a picture out of my workspace, out of my living room, out of my dining room. And it didn't need to be far away. I just put it in a closet. And I'd still talk to her so that she knew I wasn't putting her in the closet, everybody. So don't feel like you have to stop talking to. But for months, I didn't even go to the urn. My kids would go talk to her. They still needed her a part of their day. I couldn't do that, but I could talk to a picture. And so when I took the pictures away, I really do believe a different level of grief was allowed to finally break and happen. But I don't know that I would have been able to access that level if she was always kind of in the comfortable eyesight of me. It's very hard to describe. But I started taking pictures out of the space where I was most productive. And I started putting her in places where it didn't hurt as much. I could walk past her in my home. I could walk past a photo, but it didn't stall me and pause me in the same way. So I had to start decluttering. Sorry, Mom, my house.
No need to apologize. It's okay. Mom understands.
Mom understands. I had to take away 600 and just left 60 pictures,
But that's the thing. It's when you started taking them away, that's the other thing that the listeners need to understand too. When you started taking them away, it's not that you took them all away. It's not that what you did was you took the weight away. You took every time you saw it while you were trying to work, it stalled your working. It stalled you being productive. Yeah. So when you took those ones away, you still had other ones. So it's not like you took the memory away. It's not like yeah.
Exactly.
So when we honor ourselves, that's also honoring them.
Mm-hmm.
We have to honor ourselves in the now, in the what we're doing right now. You had to focus on your business and your kids.
Yeah.
And if you had those pictures in your productive areas, that would have definitely kept you unproductive.
Heather, listen, if my mom walked into my house and saw the shrine, she'd been so upset. Like, if you don't take these pictures down from here, what are you?
Definitely get away with it then.
Yeah, that's when you know it's time to move the pictures, when they start talking back to you. You're like, yes, ma'am. Just yeah.
You hear that, listeners? If they start talking back to you, you probably need to remove them. Yes.
Put them in the closet for sure. Absolutely.
So I just wanted to end this podcast episode with anything that you have for the listeners. If they're recently, or even sometimes, 5 years, 10 years, you're still grieving somebody, what is one thing you want to leave them with before we go?
Yeah. I would say own the rights again. Own the rights again to your story, to the good, the bad, and the ugly of the story. Don't delete the honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And to give yourself the right to hold that person, or hold that project or business or spouse or kid or whatever the loss is, right? Or whatever the transition is. Allow yourself to just hold it in a different space. I think as a country, we try to delete the bad things. We don't want to talk. We don't want to address. We need to suffocate the very
social media. You're only showing the best parts. You're only showing, the curated picture perfect spots. Yes.
Well, there's also this notion that something must die, disappear, be removed in order for you to be whole. And any of us who have gone through grief know that's not true. Yeah. It's why I still have the 60 pictures on the bookshelf, right? Like, it's just.
Also, you have the boxes too, that
absolutely
memory lives on. Like, you're allowed to continue to move it on. You just allowed yourself to have it in a different way.
Yeah. In a different space.
Society told you should be done. Yeah.
I just hold her in a different space in my heart. I didn't delete her from there.
Perfect. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Leslie, for coming on. This was such a beautiful, for anyone who is going through the grief, regardless of what it is. I hope you've been able to take a lot of notes and a lot of, something from it from today, because grief is something that could make or break you.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Leslie. It was so great to have you on.
Oh, girl, I'm coming back. We love you, Heather. Thank you for having me on. Such an honor.